everybody, how you doing? Uncle Vinny here. You know what's coming up? That's right, Health Chat. Grab a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
The Health Chat. I'm Dr. Nick Circolone, and has been on my mind ever since you mentioned it about feet. You're gonna go like, what feet? Are we gonna talk about feet? That's a smelly subject in most cases. But no, we're actually we're gonna talk about the anatomy of the foot. Then we're gonna talk about like what we can do to keep it moving and functioning. We'll talk about orthotics and all of these things incorporated. It's why would we talk about feet? As a chiropractor, everybody goes, you deals with spines. Well, not all the time, especially with my degree in orthopedics. I deal with every joint in the body, every muscle, every tendon. We deal with the nerves and the arteries and the veins. They all kind of they're in there. So you have to deal with them and you have to make sure that you're doing the right things for them. But the reason why we talk about some feet sometimes is that's the foundation of the body. If our feet aren't right, nothing else gets right. Think about that kinetic chain from the foot, ankle, knee, hip, low back, mid back, upper back, neck. All of that's all included. And believe it or not, Joe, a lot of people have neck pain and shoulder pain. It's because of imbalances. Their stabilization is off. Their feet aren't planted properly. Their base is off. So it's like a baseball player. What's the first thing you do when we play baseball, Joe? When you're up there at bat, you want to make sure your feet are planted and get a good foundation so you get all of that power into that ball once you hit it with the bat. Same thing with daily living. If we don't function properly with our feet or our lower extremities, what happens is we end up losing balance and things go awry. One of the biggest problems that elderly people have, I say elderly, I'm getting close, Joe. That's craziness. I'm getting close. But the crazy thing about it is a lot of times as we get older, we start to bend forward because our balance and what we're doing is we're trying to balance. So what happens is we lose. Have you ever seen an older person like speed up trying to catch up to himself?
I have seen
when you're walking. Yeah, of course. But what happens is that's when they're most vulnerable and that's when they're going to fall. And how many times have you seen somebody, and everybody out there, we probably have seen this as well. How many times have you seen someone who is like bent over and you look at them and go, man, they look really old, but they're only like 50 years old. And then you see somebody standing up tall and straight, nice posture. They're walking, they're proud, and they're in their 90s. Have you seen people like that, Joe?
I have. I've seen people walk walk a lot older than what they really are, and like you said, someone that's older than what I expect, but they look great.
Yeah, because they're working on their posture. Well, if we don't work on our posture, and everybody goes, "Oh, I'm walking around like this," what? Let's get the foundation right. Once we get the foundation right, once we get the legs straightened out, the feet straightened out, what happens is everything just comes back up. I was talking to a couple of patients. They're weightlifters, and they work out all the time. And what I've noticed is their hands, and I'm going to hold them up a little bit so people online can see. Their hands are in front of them at their thighs instead of being at their side when they're standing. What happens is when we work out, we roll our shoulders forward because we're so busy working that chest. We want that big chest. We want to have those guns, but we forget the back. And what happens is we start to roll forward. So what happens is when we roll forward, we tuck our pelvis in, lock our butt in, and our feet don't plant properly. So we have a lot of problems with that. So, as we go into the show, Joe, we'll talk a little bit more about it. If you have a question, please ask me because, I know this is your subject and I'm bringing your subject to light. It's John. I can't see anything without my glasses. I'm like blind. John, how's it going, buddy?
Not too bad. Listen, I remember that group skate.
You remember that group skate?
Because I'm just a hair under your age.
That's right. I mean, so you're 24, right? Like, because I'm 25.
Well, no, I just celebrated the 30th anniversary of my 29th birthday.
There you go. I love that. It's like that's the way to do it. I keep telling everybody since I've turned 60 years old, the older women are really finding me extremely attractive and desirable because I could drive at night. And
That's a
It
good
used to
one.
be my abs. Now I could drive at night.
I
You know.
got-
What can we do for you today, John? You having a good day?
yeah, every day is a good day.
That's right. If we're upright every single day,
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
exactly. I've got 2 words for you.
And what's that?
Turf toe.
What?
Turf toe.
Turf toe. Oh man. Now that's a whole nother issue in itself. Turf toe. Wow. How
Mhm.
now, do you have turf toe?
I did about 14, 15 years ago. It basically retired me from college officiating, and I can't play tennis anymore.
Really? That's it.
Yeah.
That's interesting that now did you have surgery for it or you just kind of let it do its thing and it still bothers you every once
No,
in a while? Comes and goes with the weather?
comes and goes with the weather, kind
Yeah.
of thing. But no, I never had surgery for it because they said well, we can do surgery, but your big toe it will be pointed up so you can be able to run. I said, what's the other option? He said physical therapy. So I'm still doing physical therapy, and that's been 14 years.
Well, it's one of those things where he surgery doesn't fix that problem. It just modifies it so you could do other things. And a lot of people just don't want to do that. They'll do the physical therapy and have that working on it so they can function and maybe back off on some sports that they were doing before. So I, I give you kudos for not getting that surgery because some people get that surgery and they're miserable forever because of that surgery. Sometimes they have to go back and get more surgery to correct that to where it was before they had the surgery. So I know that's kind
I,
of crazy, but it's the truth.
I had a I had a friend of mine that I officiated with. He had the surgery, and he can barely walk now. Well, of
Yeah.
course, now I can barely walk because my one leg is shorter than the other, and it have involved my hips because I changed the way my gait was, and it was, it's just been a last 10, 12 years. It's been just a hell.
Well, it's one of those things where it's such a devastating injury, especially for athletes, where first it happens, it doesn't seem that bad, but it's this thing that just becomes chronic. And I wish there was a better way to deal with that other than doing surgery and doing actually fusions of joints. Physical therapy would be my first option. Manipulative therapy sometimes helps that in the beginning, but as time goes on, you start developing fibrous tissue, and you know this, John. We've talked earlier before. You develop fibrous tissue. You can't deal with pressures put on that area. The arteries, the nerves, the veins, they all get this gunk around them with all of that tissue, and then it becomes extremely painful if you don't do anything about it. But as long as you're doing something where you're either doing physical therapy, keeping it manipulated, all of that stuff, that fibrous tissue doesn't get there and build up. And I think over the time that's what is prevented that tissue from getting worse.
I'm not able to run anymore, but I am able to walk, and so that's what I've been doing. And to be honest with you, people laugh at me. Some people laugh at me because I said, "Well, why did you stop officiating?" And I said, "Well, turf toe," and and they laughed, and I said, "Some of the greatest NFL players had to retire because of turf toe."
Absolutely. You don't realize how much, and we're talking about feet and you know this because as I said, we've talked before, but when we take that step and we roll that foot in, the first thing that we hit is our big toe. If we don't have that big toe right, what happens is, and you know this, is our stabilization is thrown way off. So what you do, I don't know if you do it now, but you'll end up walking on the outside of your foot, so now your little pinky toe and the other toes in there, they become aggravated just because you can't walk normally on that big toe, unless
And that's what happened to me.
yeah, Oh yeah, it's one of those injuries that people really don't think about. You say it, it's like, oh wow, like you can't see it until you show somebody, and they're like, well, it doesn't look that bad. Yeah, understand all the soft tissue that's killing me right now.
Well,
You
I'll
know.
give you two examples.
Sure.
NFL, Larry Zonka,
Mm-hmm.
he had to retire because of, and Joe may not know this. I don't know if he does, but Deion Sanders had to retire
Because of turf toe.
because of turf toe.
I know he's had some issues with his feet since, so I would not be surprised by that.
Yeah, I didn't. It's funny. I didn't realize that he had to retire because of turf toe. But you're right. You can't do anything. But if you get that surgery, it's going to make it worse. Not many people do really well with that kind of surgery because it's not a corrective surgery. It's a surgery that gives you the ability to do other things because they put it in a position where you're not stepping on it. Well, that's going to cause problems later on down the line. You're going to have to put a convertible in your sneakers to get that toe to stick up. It's just the way it is.
Get a larger pair of sneakers.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that'd be too much. John, really, I always appreciate when you call the show. I really do. Hopefully that your foot will get better and you'll feel better, and just relax. Or you know what I would do? I would put my foot up on the couch and have my wife feed me grapes and fan me. That might work.
Well, she's done that back when I had it, but now she's not. She's, the kids are out, and she goes, "I'm not touching your feet."
Listen, I told my wife I want to quit the profession and become a male supermodel for feet, and she turned around and she goes, "Please don't quit. Please don't quit." All right, John, I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
We have too much fun, Joe. We have way too much fun.
It is. I've had that injury before too, and it's
man. Well,
it sounds funny, but it's not funny to deal with.
No, and like I said, if it becomes chronic because it's been so bad, there is like no way you're going to be able to recover from that because some people don't want to deal with it, or they have the wrong treatment for it, and they're just like, I don't know what to do at this point, and then they start going for all kinds of different therapies to see if they can fix this, get it better, make it feel better, and a lot of times, you got to get something like that done quickly and as be expedient with it and be really big on your therapies of it, whatever therapy you do. So yeah, it's crazy.
You want to get Paul on line too before we hit the break?
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, how are we doing today, buddy?
Hey guys, just listening to you guys talking turf toe and wondering if you could speak a little bit about a bunion.
A bunion? Wait,
Yeah.
how did this show turn into a podiatry show? I'm a chiropractic orthopedist. We can talk. What do you want to talk about the bunions? All right. So it depends on how bad the bunions are. Now I'm gonna say something. It's gonna be tongue in cheek. Okay, you got to get that first, Paul. All right. We can adjust the snot out of that foot. All right. I can get in there and we can just break up that bunion and make it feel a whole lot better. It'll take 62 visits and $472,000, but we can do it. And I'm just kidding.
Gotcha.
So, I'm kidding, right, Paul? Okay, please.
Right.
Bunions are really hard to deal with. A lot of people would rather deal with the bunion than get the surgery because the surgery is not fun. You're out of commission for a while when they start doing all that surgery on the foot. But there are some really good doctors in town that I would trust. If it was to a point where it was really affecting my life and really getting in the way, I would go for the surgery. But if I could live with it, I would avoid the surgery at all costs because it's, number one, again, you're going in there, you're cutting some stuff out that wasn't there, now is there, and now you're taking it out. So you develop other problems for it. And sometimes, they come back. Not all the time, but sometimes they do. I'm assuming you have it.
I do. And I've got a sister that had one. She had the surgery done this summer. Okay. And it looked awful. I mean, when she first shared some pictures, but she's had a good result from it. But I just wondered what your thoughts were on the surgery.
Yeah,
I've
and
heard
like I said,
things.
here's the thing: not everybody does well with surgery, and I'll give you my kind of my general answer for surgery. Surgery is not my first option, of course. However, if somebody's going to get surgery, make sure that that is your last resort. When I say that's your last resort, I mean you've exhausted everything else and you've made the decision to do surgery. If you just do surgery without doing everything else, and the outcome usually isn't good when you do that. But if you take your time, go through the process, and then come to the point where you go, you know what? I think I'm going to need surgery. And you get surgery, your outcomes are much better because your head's in a better place. That's how I feel about surgery in general. Now, foot surgery, it all depends. It depends on what you do for a living. It depends on how much time you could take off. And I say that because sometimes you get surgery and people go back to work too quickly. They don't do the therapies that they need to do. And the outcome is bad because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. That is one of those things where if the doctor says, I want you in physical therapy for 6 weeks, you go it for 6 weeks and you kick it and you do it. And then if you need another 6 weeks, you do it again. Don't, you can't skimp on that stuff.
Don't
It's like,
shortcut it. Yeah.
no, do not.
Okay.
No, do not. And I don't think your sister did she?
No, she did not.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my again, that's my patent. And people go, well, you're a chiropractor. I said yes, but I have a fellowship in orthopedics, which means I don't disregard surgery for patients. We just want to do it at the right time and for the right reasons. So I mean, I hope that helps, Paul.
Okay. Oh yeah, helped a lot. Thank you a lot.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I had a question for you, Dr. Nick.
Sure, you got it.
Talking about feet today and how that relates to the back and what you do. So just talk a little bit about the types of shoes out there and how they affect, well, not only the feet, but how they affect the back, because it seems like high heels would be the number one no on that list, but also boots. And they're not I don't see them much anymore, but there were, I don't know, 3 to 5 years ago, you had those almost like a skin that you put on your feet that was in the shape of a foot.
Yeah, the toe shoes.
The toe shoes,
Vibrams. Yeah, they're Vibrams.
Yeah.
Let's first talk about high heels because I like wearing mine. And no, I'm just kidding. Stop. People are gonna go like the man's nutso, High heels, they mess with people in general. But I will tell you this: a lot of women feel better when they wear high heels. Their back feels better because it's putting them into a different position. You see a lot of guys that go, I can't wear sneakers, but man, when I put my cowboy boots on, I got no back pain because they get just a little bit of a heel in there, which kind of stabilizes that back. But over time, what happens with high heels when women wear them, and they don't wear them like they used to wear them, that would be like the kind of the everyday shoe. But when they would wear them all the time, what would happen is those muscles would start to actually get shorter. So as they get shorter, when they go to stand, that muscle would be so tight and all of that would be transferred up in the kinetic chain into the low back. So not necessarily does shoes really affect the back. It'll affect other areas, which in turn will affect the back. Now, I'm a firm believer in orthotics. We didn't even talk about this, Joe, but this kind of opens the door to an orthotic. So let's say you go out and you buy a pair of really, really expensive work boots. Okay. You're paying at least maybe $250 for a good pair of work boots. Those work boots are great, except inside the arch supports or the insole that's in there is garbage. All the money is in the outside material. All the money is in the sole, but the inside where the foot sits is garbage. I'm just going to use the 4-letter word crap. So the inserts in those boots, when you buy those boots, you pull them out, throw them away, and make sure that you get a good set of orthotics to put in your shoes. I don't have any to show you. I wear an orthotic in my shoes all the time. I've been wearing orthotics in my shoes for over 30 years. Now, what that does for me, and I'll explain this, if you look at your shoes, some people wear the inside of the shoe out, of the heel, the outside. Some people wear the toe out. In those areas, you're putting too much pressure on different parts of the shoe when you're walking because your foot is not in line and is misaligned. You got to understand, Joe, in the foot, we have 26 bones. In the lower extremity alone, we have 30. And on each extremity, we have 30. So that's 60 in the lower, 60 in the upper. So we have 120 bones just in the upper and lower extremities. There's a lot of bones in there. And if they don't move in synergy, what happens is they cause problems no matter what shoe you wear. Now, you mentioned the toe shoes, the Vibrams. There was a lot of them that made that shoe. I actually have a pair of them, and I wear them sometimes to work out, but there's not enough support in them. So if I go to run in those, and as you get older, you're starting to lose a lot of that plantar surface in your foot. So there's a lot of impact going on there. So you want to make sure you have a good insole in there to absorb all of that shock, regardless of what shoe you wear. Now, even if you wear high heels, Joe, you could put an orthotic in those. If you wear a sneaker, you could put an orthotic in those. If you have work boots, you could put an orthotic in those. They make different orthotics for that. Now, in our office, we actually do orthotics. You come into the office, we stand you on a machine, we scan your feet, and we send them to the company, and we have the orthotics specially made just for you. So I can't pull one off the shelf and give it to you, Joe, and go, oh, these are usually for your size, for your foot. These will work great. This is made specifically for you. It doesn't necessarily matter the shoe you're wearing. It's the kind of support you have in the shoe, which makes the difference. And a lot of people, women, the first thing, if you ask your wife, Joe, why'd you buy those shoes? They were cute.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah, they're cute. Are they comfortable? No, not really, but they're cute. Okay, you're going to put your foot in something that's really uncomfortable, be in it for hours just because it's cute? And the answer is absolutely. Women do that. Or if you're wearing a pair of nice shoes as a man, a woman will come up and look at your shoes and go, boy, they're cute. They won't say they're handsome. They're cute. Like, I'm not wearing cute shoes. These are comfortable. I like these. I would wear fuzzy slippers if I could wear fuzzy slippers because they're comfortable. Even with a fuzzy slipper, I have to put an orthotic in. It depends on your shoe. As you're younger, it doesn't really matter. You don't see a difference. But as you get older and you're wearing shoes like that, you will cause damage to the foot. And that's why I recommend orthotics early on in kids, especially if they're playing sports. If they're playing sports, I want to make sure they get a good orthotic and insole in those shoes because number one, it'll make the shoe feel better. And number two, they'll perform better with it.
Well, obviously, the custom fitted orthotics, I mean, those are the best. But I mean, what are your thoughts on the off the shelf type of insoles that you can put in?
Great question. I don't want to step on toes. I mean, if you're going to spend, on a pair of those orthotics, and I don't want to say the names because there's so many of them out there, but when you go, I mean, you used to go to Walmart and you could get the Dr. Scholl's. I will say that, they're okay, but they're not correcting anything. They're not stabilizing anything. Now you can go and get like a $50 or $60 pair of orthotics, not really, or insoles that you could put in your shoes and it'll feel more comfortable because it's got more arch support. But it's designed for the average, not your foot. So your foot's still going to have to mold to that insert that you put in. So why not get something that's going to fit your foot? They're very expensive at times. I'm just going to be honest with you. You could spend up to $1,000 for a custom pair of orthotics. In my office, this is the price. This is the way it is. We do a pair of orthotics for $280. So that's one pair of orthotics. But those orthotics will last you, depending on how your foot is and how bad it is. They'll usually last up to 2, maybe 3 years. So the price of them isn't terrible. Now, I've had one patient in my whole career that their orthotic lasted them maybe 12 months and literally looked like they had that orthotic for 500 years. It was terrible. Their foot was so bad. But they felt much better when they wore the orthotic because it helped stabilize their foot. I mean, they were worse than flat-footed. Their toes were kind of mauled up. Eventually, they had to get surgery for part of that. But in general, that orthotic really saved the day for them. Now, for me, I used to turn my foot in, and I used to wear out the heel a lot. I mean, within probably about 5 months, you could see my heel worn down, and I'd have to either get a heel replaced or get new shoes. Well, as soon as I put an orthotic in, my shoes wear out. The soles wear to where could be a hole in them rather than me wearing them down. They wear normal. But here's the kicker, Joe. If you wear orthotics in your shoes, they will not correct your foot. They're not designed for that. they're designed to give correction while you're wearing them. That's what people don't understand. They like if I go on the machine today and scan my feet, my foot might be a little bit better, but it's not going to be much better than it was 30 years ago. It might be better because, I'm older, but it won't show you that much of a change, but you could see the change in the way you walk and the way your body feels. That's where the changes come in. I don't know if that helps.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I've had a custom insole put in, and it worked fantastic. And I've used the generic ones too. And like you said, it's just kind of it's softer, but that's about where it ends.
Yeah, and because when you have like I said, and do you remember how much you pay for those custom orthotics?
That was a long time ago, so no, I do not.
Okay, but
I
I
didn't pay
mean,
for it.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I didn't pay for it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've been doing orthotics for patients for so long. We used to have casts where they had this like softy foam in there, and you would step into this mold, and I'd have to set it right, fold it up, send it out, and wait 3 weeks to get their orthotics. Now I just scan their feet, press a button. It gives me a digital printout of what your foot looks like, tells you where you have your issues. It literally looks at your posture, this machine, which is pretty cool. And then we can order the orthotics right then and there. But I don't push the orthotic right away, Joe. What I do is I make sure a patient gets exercises for golf balls. And I'm glad I said that, because if somebody's listening in, you can give us a call at my office at 855-7376. Talk to Shay. If you're interested in an orthotic, we could talk to you about that, but we can also give you an exercise to make sure that your foot would feel better in the orthotic. Because what we try to do is we try to get your foot as pliable as it possibly can be before we put an orthotic in there. Because what happens is if we just cast your foot without loosening up the muscles, without getting the bones to move properly, just from exercising, what happens is the orthotics are very uncomfortable when people don't wear them, and it becomes a waste of money. So I'd rather people do what I ask them to do before they buy the orthotic, because even doing the exercise, it'll still be a little bit uncomfortable. So yeah, we try our best to fit the patient best we possibly can, plus give them the options of doing certain things before they do it, so that way the orthotics fit them much better. We're gonna have to take a quick break. We've just been talking too much, Joe. Let's give out our number again. It's 423-855-7376. I'm Dr. Nick Circolone. You're listening to Health Chat, hanging out with Cowboy Joe, talking about the little footsies. We're no matter what it is, we'll talk about it, won't we, Joe?
That is correct, sir.
I will say this. I have way too much fun doing this because we've been doing it, like for so long. I'll tell you what it has done for me by being on the radio and being able to communicate things to people. I learned an awful lot over the years. So when we talk about the body and different conditions, I'm able to talk about them in a way, hopefully, that people would understand. I'm trying to give you information that you can use, but I had to learn a lot too by doing this. And what it's done is just made me a better doctor, because if I have a problem I can't deal with, I'm just referring you out. That's the best part of what I can do is, yes, we can help a lot of people, but even if I can't help them at that moment, I'm referring you out. Give you a great example. I had a patient come in. They had fallen and broken their knee. They were in a lot of pain, and they were put in a brace. As they were in this brace, they started having a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, and their back started bothering them. So she came to see me, and I'm evaluating the patient. I'm looking at her, and I'm taking a look at her ankle, and I start looking at the leg, and I said, you know what? Something's not right here. Now, nobody wanted to look at her. Okay, this is the kicker. We're so busy as doctors, sometimes we avoid listening to the patient, but she wanted to be seen because she felt something was not going right. I saw the patient, looked at her leg, and I go, this is way more than your knee bothering you. So I suspected a blood clot. So what I did was I sent her for a Doppler study to make sure that it wasn't a blood clot, because if you have a blood clot in the leg, that's a serious issue. Well, she goes and gets the ultrasound done. They call me on the phone. Joe, she had a blood clot in her back of her knee, which was causing all the pain. And on top of it, the brace was aggravating that to the point where she was getting all of this pain. She would have been in pain anyway from the blood clot, but the brace that she was wearing was making it worse. And so, of course, I called the doctor and I said, listen, that we just found a blood clot. He was like, let's take the brace off. Let's take the brace off. Well, he knew exactly what to do. But at that moment, it wasn't him that didn't call. It was the staff. So you have to be really careful about the staff. And we've had a conversation about being an advocate for your health. But these are the things that we see in the office. And I believe a lot of it's because I get to do research for my shows. I get to talk about different subjects. I get to talk to other doctors, which gives us a whole different level of care that we give, not because I'm the latest and greatest, it's because of all this experience that I was able to have. And I believe talk radio was part of that, you know?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and for those of you tuning in and you go like, who the heck is this guy? I'm Dr. Nick Circolone. You can catch me on YouTube. You can go on our YouTube site. It's at Dr. Circolone. You can also catch us on Facebook at Apple Rehab Group. We're on LinkedIn. We're now on Rumble. We're doing Rumble now. It's crazy. And people can get a hold of us just by calling the office at 423-855-7376. And you know something, Joe? It doesn't matter whether or not you're in my area. We can still telehealth people. If they have questions, if they need some help with something, we're always available, and we take pretty much every single insurance company that's out there at this point. Now, later on, we may have to not take certain insurance companies because they keep cutting our fees, and we still have to pay for the lights, which we talked about before. My favorite thing to do, Joe, is to inform people. And hopefully that we're doing that right here on this show.
I think we are, Nick. It's been a good one, brother.
All right, man. You have a great week. We love you. God bless, and we'll see you next week.